All right. Well, the AltaLink project is it's a multi-year project that we're upgrading our ATM and TDM network to an IP MPLS infrastructure. What we've seen, and of course, trends are ongoing, and certainly a part of it, or a big part of it, is away from TDM and ATM technology. We are an extensive user of the Main Street products as well as the 72, 7470. Those products have been discontinued now from Alcatel. We've started looking at the IP-MPLS technology as the successor to that technology. I guess it would be about 2007. We started lab testing, evaluating, I guess is the word, of those products. The 7705, of course, is a key one to it, as well as the 7750s. And so over that period of time, we actually worked a lot with Alcatel to evaluate the hardware in the labs, look at the services that we actually need for those equipment or those switches to carry for us, and then see if it actually is a fit for our network. So since that time, we've done the lab evaluations. We did a lab build inside our utilities, so we could actually interface it to some of the equipment and that sort of thing. We did a 24 node pilot deployment, which of course wrapped up about October or so of 2010. And of course, since that time now, we've been running the network and evaluating the performance. So far, we haven't come across anything that's been, I guess, questionable or anything that didn't meet the requirements of our services. Certainly, the teleprotection was the most sensitive service on the network that we've been working with. So there's been some specific traffic engineering and that sort of thing that we've had to do to migrate those services, or certainly plan for the larger migration of those services onto the network. But so far, we haven't come across anything any obstacles that we couldn't overcome. So far, it's been successful, and starting, well, I guess it's underway right now. Our core network build is underway, and then certainly through 2012 and 2013 is the majority of the network upgrade. So we're looking at several hundred substations to be upgraded to full 7705 services. We're also leveraging 5620 SAM to manage it all and monitor it all. We're also using the CPAM product as well to help with some of the service level monitoring and assurance, I guess you could say, of that. And so far, that's been quite successful for us. We've actually stood up a network operations center, and so that was a new thing for our utility. It used to be more, I guess you could say, field managed and driven. Now we're migrating to a carrier-based model with centralized management, centralized provisioning, and centralized dispatch, if you will. So we're leveraging a lot of these tools and the technology that Alcatel has created largely for the carrier market, I suspect, and also now applying those to our utility environment.
We feel the service portal will offer some big benefits to us. Part of the IP-MPLS project was to build our network operations center, and as part of that, we need a way to streamline the provisioning of services. Currently in our network, I'm doing a lot of the provisioning by hand, either through SAM or through the CLI. But in order to really take the project to the next level, and we've got upwards of 75 nodes in the field by the end of this year, and in order to properly manage those and start cutting over circuits, we need a way for our network operations center folks to be able to do that work, and we really see that Service Portal will help us with that.
More fiber on the transmission line. So certainly what's changing from the transport network that used to be primarily all microwave, now we're actually overlaying our microwave network with a fiber network. And so as you start to roll that out and you start to integrate that fiber into your switching platform, your layer 2, layer 3 switching layers, that sort of thing, I think it only makes sense to try and integrate as much of that as you can. And certainly something like the 1830 and the ongoing management or integration of that management through SAM to give one consistent platform and pane of glass to look at for a network operator certainly I would think makes it more streamlined and more easy to manage. Certainly that's our intention. We've also got the 9500 radios and that sort of thing. We haven't got them integrated completely yet. I'm not sure that they're actually 100% supported in all aspects yet. But certainly that would be that's our intent, is to bring whatever we can, if you will, into SAM, including even the access boxes, the 6850s and 55s, that sort of thing as well. So The simpler we can make it for the handful of guys that run in our network operations center, I would say the better. When we looked at both of the products, the 7750 as well as the 7705, the 7750 certainly we know that a lot of the carriers and that sort of thing in our in the Canadian market are using it. Certainly, it has the features and the functions and that sort of thing that we like. The full, I guess you could say, redundant hardware, the carrier grade type of features, that sort of thing that we also want to leverage for our network. 7705 in particular, it has been of particular interest to us because there's two key things to it. One is that it has the DC power supplies and the redundant processors and all of the sort of carrier grade features that we look for in a utility piece of hardware. But it also has it in an edge level product. So the pricing points on it and the size of it and that sort of thing, it's sort of a right-sized box for our application. We have lots of sites, but not necessarily a lot of bandwidth coming out of those sites. So certainly when we compared it or contrasted it to what was available in the market, certainly the price point and the features, if you will, for that price made it a really good fit for our deployment. Those are sort of the key things. I mean, the centralized management and those sorts of things too also come into play as well. But generally speaking, that was what really made it applicable for us was the right size box for the right price. Generally speaking, with our utility network being wholly owned internally, the drivers for additional bandwidth come from the applications that we have inside the utility. And so because we're not being driven by things like the cellular market or the mobile broadband and that sort of thing, we don't necessarily see the massive upswing in bandwidth requirements that I'm sure the carriers and others are wrestling with. What we do see though is that certainly we see at the layer 1 level, we see more fiber being deployed into the network, right? We see more transmission lines being built and of course more fiber going along with those. The microwave networks certainly are aging, and when I say aging, I mean that the life cycle of that sort of technology is getting shorter. From the old analog days of 20 and 30-year life cycles of those assets, now we're getting down into 10-year and under type of life cycles, that sort of thing. So with that, we're seeing a migration to packet-based microwave radio. So certainly at a layer 1 level, more fiber and packet-based microwave certainly feeds into an IP-MPLS type of switching architecture quite well. The deployment of MPLS itself comes into play largely because certainly we're being asked to do more with less. We don't see a lot of hiring going on. We don't have armies of people to run these sorts of networks, that sort of thing. But by the same token, we also do see more IP-based services being wanted, or there's a demand for more IP-based services into the substation, right? So whether it's private LAN access or voice over IP or SCADA over IP or internet, you name it. There's a metering. There's a large number of services that are all transitioning to an IP type of service architecture. So certainly that also fits into the justification and the drivers to go with IP and MPLS as the service delivery mechanism, if you will. Looking forward down the road, certainly there's more variation depending on the utility that you have. I mean, in our case, we're transmission only, so we don't have huge metering, AMR, AMI, that sort of thing. There's not a huge metering backhaul type of infrastructure that's needed for the utility that AltaLink is. But certainly I would say we're more the exception than the rule. The bigger utilities, the vertically integrated utilities that do have the thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of meters, that sort of thing that they do need to backhaul, could certainly leverage IP and MPLS and additional transport bandwidth to fit those requirements as well.
We use Alcatel-Lucent, many of their services, but front and center with my role is with the IPD engineering team, and they've been partnered with us throughout from the very start of our project. They traveled to Calgary, they helped us with our initial designs, and that's an ongoing effort. We engage them periodically. For them, the IPD engineers come to Calgary, and we work on the designs and the implementation. So it's a very worthwhile partnership. Initially and early on, it helped us breed the confidence when we were learning the new technology. It was almost like a mentorship, and for myself as in a lead technical role, that was very valuable. I often refer to it as a seatbelt, because it gave me the confidence to learn what I needed to do, and had meanwhile having somebody that was capable and knew it and was able to offer that guidance. So it was very worthwhile.
The value proposition that we gain out of our partnership with Alcatel-Lucent is certainly one that we look at as being very important to us as a mission critical industry or infrastructure operator. We certainly value the partnership insofar as Alcatel being with us and supporting us through our build, helping us along the way as we make this migration into an IP/MPLS and packet type of infrastructure. It is much more of a partnership in the sense that it's not a vendor-customer, here's the equipment, good luck with it, relationship that along with supplying the equipment, we also have the professional services to help us and make sure that our solution works for our requirements. We're also connected to Alcatel, to the back-end engineering and R&D folks. We have routine conversations with the engineers that are actually building the equipment to help make sure that the technology fits with our requirements. And so we certainly value that relationship and that open communication with Alcatel. We certainly don't have that with many other vendors, and we think it's a very high value position, I guess you could say, for us. One other aspect of Alcatel-Lucent that certainly as a mission critical utility that we value is the depth of the product portfolio that Alcatel-Lucent brings to the industry. We certainly see that as a differentiator, in that Alcatel-Lucent is quite unique in that they have offerings in all layers of the network where we have need. So whether it's from the fiber and the transport layer, microwave radio, right through the IP/MPLS and the switching layers, the security architectures, the access layers, there's solutions that are available from Alcatel for the whole breadth of our requirement. And certainly that's something that we don't see from the other vendors.
SRX 2011 has been a very worthwhile experience from our perspective. It gives us the opportunity for us to network with peer utilities, especially in the Europe, Middle East, and Africa. What we see often in the North American market is that the utilities are not that far along, and as a result, we have more to talk about with the utilities in Europe, because they are participating in lab trials and they're actually transforming their networks. They're doing services like teleprotection, and they're investigating those kinds of services. And so we have more to talk about when we come over here than perhaps we do when we're in North America.